The lie she never meant to tell. The ballroom glowed with gold and crystal, every chandelier scattering light like 1,000 silent witnesses. Laughter floated through the air, polished and effortless, the kind that belonged to people who had never been told they were not enough. The Riverside Grand Hotel had hosted hundreds of elite events before, but tonight's charity gala felt heavier to Sophia Carter, as if every step she took echoed her past mistakes. She paused just inside the entrance, smoothing her dress with trembling fingers. The emerald fabric clung elegantly to her figure, though she was painfully aware that elegance did not erase insecurity. She had spent weeks debating whether she should even come. Half her monthly salary had gone into this dress, and the other half into convincing herself that she deserved to stand among people who spoke fluently in money, power, and prestige. Sophia inhaled slowly. She was here for work. That was all. At 27, she had learned how to become invisible when necessary. As the executive assistant to Lucas Harrington, one of the most powerful tech entrepreneurs in the city, invisibility had become her survival skill. She remembered names, anticipated needs, corrected mistakes before they happened, all while remaining just outside the spotlight. Lucas appeared beside her as if summoned by her thoughts. Tall, composed, impossibly calm, he wore a tailored black suit that fit him like authority itself. At 38, Lucas Harrington had built a billion-dollar empire from nothing but relentless discipline and quiet brilliance. His presence changed rooms. Conversations softened when he passed. People straightened their posture without realizing why. "You look nervous," he said gently, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "That's unusual for you." Sophia forced a smile. "Just making sure everything is running smoothly." Lucas studied her for a moment, his sharp gray eyes softening. "You don't need to carry the weight of the room tonight. That's my job." She nodded, though she didn't fully believe him. She never had. They moved forward together, Lucas greeting donors and board members with polite efficiency. Sophia followed half a step behind, whispering reminders, schedules, quiet warnings. To the world she was just the assistant. To Lucas she was indispensable, though he rarely said it aloud. Then she heard it. A laugh. Not just any laugh. A laugh that tightened her chest, stole the air from her lungs, and dragged her backward through memories she had worked so hard to bury. Sophia froze. She didn't need to turn around. Her body recognized the sound before her mind did. Daniel. Her ex. The man who had once promised her forever and then spent 4 years convincing her she was too small to deserve it. She turned slowly. Daniel Reed stood across the ballroom, confident and radiant, dressed in a navy suit she recognized instantly. She had helped him pick it out when he got his first promotion, the one he later used as proof that he was outgrowing her. On his arm was a woman who looked like she belonged on magazine covers. Tall, flawless, dripping in confidence and designer labels. Social media perfection brought to life. Daniel's eyes met Sophia's. Surprise flickered, then satisfaction. He leaned toward the woman beside him and whispered something that made her laugh. Then, with deliberate ease, he began walking toward Sophia, every step calculated. Sophia's stomach dropped. She had imagined this moment 100 times. Running into him. Estando taller. Showing him she was fine. But imagination was kinder than reality. "Sophia?" Daniel said brightly as if they were old friends. "Wow. I almost didn't recognize you." She forced herself to meet his gaze. "Daniel." "This is Evelyn," he said, tightening his arm around the woman beside him. "My girlfriend." Evelyn's eyes flicked over Sophia, not curious, not kind. Measuring. Judging. "Oh," Evelyn said lightly. "So you're the ex." Sophia smiled politely. "Nice to meet you." Daniel tilted his head. "What brings you here? Still working those administrative jobs?" The words landed softly, but the intent behind them cut deep. Sophia felt heat rise to her cheeks. For years Daniel had spoken like this. Always subtle. Always dismissive. Always reminding her that her dreams were smaller than his. "I work for Mr. Harrington," she replied carefully. Daniel followed her gaze and finally noticed Lucas standing beside her. Recognition dawned slowly, then explosively. Lucas Harrington. The billionaire. Daniel's smile faltered. Lucas extended his hand calmly. "Lucas." Daniel shook it, trying to regain composure. "Daniel Reed." "Pleasure." Lucas's grip was firm. Unshakable. "And you are?" Daniel asked, glancing between them. Sophia opened her mouth and hesitated. "Assistant? Employee? Nobody." Before she could answer, Lucas spoke. "My girlfriend." The word echoed louder than the orchestra. Sophia's heart stopped. Daniel blinked. Evelyn stiffened. I'm sorry? Daniel said. Lucas's arm slid naturally around Sophia's waist, pulling her close. His touch was warm, steady, protective. Sophia is my girlfriend, Lucas repeated calmly. The lie settled into the air like truth. Sophia looked up at him, eyes wide. His expression didn't waver. His gaze told her everything. Trust me. Daniel laughed nervously. That's funny. You never mentioned dating a billionaire. Sophia swallowed and found her voice. Some things are private. Lucas smiled down at her, not the polite smile he gave investors but something softer. Something dangerous. She prefers authenticity over attention, he said. One of the many reasons I admire her. Evelyn's smile cracked. Daniel's confidence crumbled visibly. Wow. I had no idea. Lucas leaned in closer to Sophia. Shall we take our seats? The auction is about to begin. Sophia nodded, her legs barely supporting her. As they turned away, she felt Daniel's stare burning into her back, disbelief mixed with regret. They walked in silence until they reached a quieter corner. Sophia finally whispered, Lucas, what was that? He didn't remove his arm. I saw how he spoke to you, Lucas said quietly. And I wasn't going to let him do that. This could cause problems, she said. People will talk. They already do, he replied. Tonight they'll talk about you with respect. Her heart pounded. And if he asks questions? She asked. Lucas stopped walking and turned to face her fully. Then we make them believe it. Before she could respond, voices approached. Eyes turned. Whispers spread. Lucas leaned down and kissed her. Not a quick kiss. Not a staged one. A real one. Slow. Intentional. Devastating. Sophia forgot how to breathe. The room vanished. There was only the warmth of his lips, the certainty of his hands, the way the kiss erased every doubt she'd ever had about her worth. When he pulled back, her world was no longer the same. And neither was the lie. When the lie started talking back, Sophia did not remember leaving the ballroom. She remembered the kiss, the way it had silenced every cruel memory Daniel had ever planted in her mind, but everything after felt like a blur of lights, murmurs, and pounding blood. By the time she found herself seated beside Lucas at the auction table, her hands were still trembling beneath the tablecloth. Lucas noticed. He always noticed. You okay? He asked quietly, his voice steady, grounding. She nodded, though it was a lie layered on top of another lie. Her lips still tingled where his had been. Her heart had not slowed since. Across the room, Daniel sat stiffly beside Evelyn, his attention fractured. He kept glancing in Sophia's direction, disbelief etched into his face. This was not how the story was supposed to go. In his version, Sophia was meant to look small, unaccomplished, regretful. Instead, she was glowing, seated beside a man whose name carried weight in every corner of the city. The auctioneer began speaking, but Sophia barely heard a word. She could feel Lucas beside her, his arm occasionally brushing hers, his presence solid and composed. The lie had not ended with the kiss. If anything, it had grown teeth. Lucas raised a paddle calmly. A six-figure sculpture sold in seconds. Whispers rippled through the room. Daniel watched, stunned. He remembered the nights he had mocked Sophia for choosing stability over risk. For not dreaming big enough. For being content with less. And now, she was sitting beside a man who could buy dreams without blinking. The auction ended to polite applause. As people stood and mingled again, Sophia felt the weight of reality crash down. We need to talk, she whispered. Lucas nodded. Outside. They stepped onto a quiet balcony overlooking the river. Cool air brushed her flushed skin. The city lights shimmered below, distant and unreal. Sophia crossed her arms, suddenly unsure where to look. That kiss. Lucas, I didn't expect. I know, he said gently. And I crossed a line. She shook her head quickly. I'm not angry. I don't understand. Lucas leaned against the railing, hands relaxed, posture open. I meant what I said inside. About him. About you deserving respect. And the kiss? She asked softly. His jaw tightened slightly, the only sign he was nervous. That wasn't strategy. Her breath caught. I've watched you minimize yourself for years, he continued. I've watched people overlook you because of your title. I told myself it was professional distance. That I was protecting you. But tonight, seeing him try to break you again? He looked at her, then really looked at her. I couldn't stay silent. Sophia felt tears sting her eyes. Not from sadness, from something warmer. Something healing. This lie is dangerous, she said. People will assume things. You're bored. The media. I can handle that, Lucas replied calmly. What matters is what you want. She hesitated. I don't want to hurt you. Or my career. You won't, he said firmly. And I would never ask you to sacrifice either. Before she could respond, the balcony doors opened. Daniel. His confidence was gone now, replaced by unease. Sophia, he said. Can we talk? Alone. Lucas straightened. Is there a problem? Daniel cleared his throat. I didn't realize how far you'd come. Sophia stepped forward, surprising herself. You didn't want to. Daniel flinched. I supported you, he argued weakly. You controlled me, she said quietly. You made me feel small so you could feel big. Evelyn appeared behind him, arms crossed, watching closely. Lucas didn't speak, but his presence was unmistakable. Daniel swallowed. I made mistakes. Yes, Sophia replied. And tonight you're seeing the consequences. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. So this is real? Lucas answered calmly. Very. Daniel looked between them, realization finally settling. He had underestimated her. Again. And this time the world had noticed. Daniel left without another word. Sophia exhaled shakily. Lucas turned to her. You didn't owe him anything. I know, she said. But saying it out loud, it felt like closure. They stood in silence for a moment, the river flowing endlessly below. This doesn't have to continue, Lucas said carefully. The pretending. Sophia looked at him, really looked at him. The man who had never raised his voice. Never belittled her. Never used her insecurities against her. What if, she said slowly, we don't end it yet? His eyebrows lifted slightly. Just for a little while, she added. Let me learn how it feels to be respected. Lucas's expression softened. Then we do it on your terms. Her phone buzzed in her hand. A message from an unknown number. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I should have treated you better. Daniel. Sophia stared at the screen, then locked the phone and slipped it back into her purse. She didn't need his apology anymore. Because for the first time in years she wasn't pretending to be strong. She actually was. When the world started watching. The story should have ended at the gala. That was what Sophia told herself as she stood in her apartment the next morning, staring at her reflection. The lie had served its purpose. Daniel had been silenced. Her dignity had been reclaimed. But the world did not move on so easily. Her phone vibrated on the kitchen counter. Once. Twice. Then again. By the time she picked it up, there were 12 notifications. All from different numbers, all carrying the same question. Is it true? Her stomach tightened. She opened her social media feed and felt the air leave her lungs. A photo. Grainy but unmistakable. Lucas Harrington, the untouchable billionaire, kissing a woman in an emerald dress on the balcony of the Riverside Grand Hotel. The caption read, Tech mogul seen with mystery woman at charity gala. The comments were already exploding. Speculation. Admiration. Envy. Doubt. Sophia sank onto a chair, hands shaking. She hadn't signed up for this. Her phone rang. Lucas. She answered instantly. I saw it. I know, he said calmly. I'm coming to get you. You don't have to. I want to. 30 minutes later, his car pulled up outside her building. Sophia hesitated before stepping inside, suddenly aware that this wasn't a gala fantasy anymore. This was her real life, messy, public, and impossible to undo. At the office, the atmosphere was electric. Whispers followed her through the hallway. Eyes lingered too long. For the first time since she'd started working there, people didn't see just an assistant. They saw her. Lucas called an emergency executive meeting. The boardroom was tense, sharp with unspoken questions. This relationship, one board member said carefully, could affect public perception. Lucas folded his hands. There is no ethical violation. Sophia is not under my supervision anymore. The room stilled. Sophia's heart skipped. Lucas continued, effective immediately, Sophia Carter is appointed interim director of strategic development. Gasps followed. Sophia's breath caught. She hadn't known. Lucas met her eyes. This promotion is long overdue. After the meeting, she confronted him privately. You didn't tell me. I wanted it to be earned, not gifted, he said. And you earned it. Tears blurred her vision. That evening, Daniel's name appeared on her phone again. She didn't answer. Instead, she stood on Lucas's penthouse balcony, city lights stretching endlessly before her. This time she wasn't pretending. She was standing where she belonged. Lucas joined her, handing her a glass of water. "This isn't easy," he said. "If you want to walk away." "I don't," she said immediately. "Not anymore." She turned to him, voice steady. "I spent years shrinking myself so others wouldn't feel threatened. I won't do that again." He smiled, not triumphantly but proudly. As the city buzzed below, Sophia realized something terrifying and beautiful. The lie had ended, and the truth had just begun. The moment he couldn't control anymore. The city loved a rise, but it loved a fall even more. Within a week, Sophia's name was everywhere, not because she sought attention, but because the world had decided she was a story worth watching. Articles speculated about her background. Comment sections debated whether she was lucky or brilliant. Strangers analyzed her clothes, her expressions, her past. And Daniel watched all of it unravel. From the outside, his life looked unchanged. Same firm. Same title. Same carefully curated confidence. But behind closed doors, everything was slipping. Investors had started asking questions. Not about Sophia, about him. Why had he underestimated someone now recognized as a strategic force in one of the city's most powerful companies? Why had he dismissed a woman whose ideas were now being credited in industry panels? Daniel had no good answers. The breaking point came at a public business forum, one Sophia was invited to speak at. She almost declined. Standing on that stage meant exposing herself fully. It meant stepping into a spotlight she had spent her life avoiding. But Lucas had looked at her gently and said, "You don't owe anyone perfection. Just truth." So she went. The auditorium was full. Cameras ready. Panelists seated. And Daniel was there. He hadn't expected her to be on stage, not like this. Not confident. Not composed. Not commanding quiet respect without raising her voice. When Sophia spoke, the room listened. She talked about resilience. About overlooked talent. About how innovation dies when people judge instead of listen. She never said Daniel's name. She didn't have to. During the Q&A, Daniel stood abruptly. "I have a question," he said, voice tight. Sophia met his gaze calmly. "Go ahead." "Do you think success comes from merit?" he asked, "or from who you align yourself with?" The room went silent. Sophia paused, not because she was afraid but because she chose her words carefully. "I believe success comes from integrity," she said evenly. "And integrity shows in how you treat people before the world is watching." Applause erupted. Daniel sat down, exposed. Later that night, alone on the balcony again, Sophia felt the weight lift from her chest. Lucas stood beside her, not as a savior, but as an equal. "I didn't fight back," she said quietly. "You didn't need to," he replied. "You outgrew him." Her phone buzzed one last time. Daniel. She read the message, then deleted it without opening. She had nothing left to prove. She was never small, only surrounded by the wrong people. The silence that followed Daniel's disappearance from Sophia's life was not empty. It was peaceful. For the first time in years, Sophia woke up without anxiety tightening her chest. No second-guessing her words. No shrinking her dreams. No quiet fear that she was asking for too much simply by existing. Her apartment no longer felt temporary. Neither did her confidence. Weeks passed, and Sophia settled into her new role with quiet determination. She didn't change who she was. She didn't become sharper or colder to prove she belonged. She led the same way she always had, with preparation, empathy, and an unshakable work ethic. And people noticed. Not because Lucas stood beside her, but because she stood on her own. At meetings, her voice carried weight. Her ideas were credited. Her name appeared on reports instead of footnotes. When she spoke, people listened, not out of obligation but respect. One afternoon, Sophia overheard a junior employee whisper to another, "She's intimidating." Sophia smiled softly. Not because she wanted to be feared, but because she had finally stopped being underestimated. Daniel's downfall came quietly. No dramatic headlines. No public shaming. Just consequences. His firm lost a major client. One Sophia's company acquired instead. His reputation suffered as stories surfaced about his pattern of dismissing talent. Promotions stalled. Doors closed. For the first time, Daniel felt what Sophia had lived with for years. Irrelevance. He tried to reach her once more. This time she answered. Not to reconcile, but to release. "I don't hate you," she said calmly over the phone. "But I don't carry you anymore." There was nothing he could say that mattered. She hung up, lighter. That evening, Sophia stood once again on the penthouse balcony, the city glowing beneath her. Lucas joined her, not with grand gestures, not with promises, Just presence. You don't need me anymore, he said gently. She turned to him, smiling. I never needed saving. He nodded. I know. They stood side by side, not boss and assistant, not protector and protected, but equals. Later that night, Sophia attended another gala. This time she wore confidence instead of armor. When whispers followed her, she didn't flinch. She had learned something priceless. Respect doesn't come from status. It comes from knowing your worth, and refusing to let anyone rewrite it for you. And somewhere in the crowd, a woman watched Sophia walk past and whispered, "She's powerful." Sophia didn't hear it. She didn't need to.